Yeah, it is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. Road game for me, yet again.
Yep.
Broadcasting from the beautiful New York Hotel and Casino on the Strip in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's International Fight Week for the UFC, so I'm out here
Big week.
a day early. Yeah, we got the Hall of Fame on Thursday. Got the weigh-in show on Friday, press conference, and obviously the giant pay-per-view with two title fights. Israel Adesanya, Derek Carr, and then Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski facing off for a thrice time.
What do you think?
Should be an awesome night. So Volk and Max, they're so close. I know it's like the most boring way to analyze it, but I think it all comes down to who the judges are. We'll know Friday who the assigned judges are, but I think it all comes down to who the judges are because they're just so close. In both their fights, they fought 50 minutes, and I still don't know who the better fighter is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's nuts.
I think maybe the power advantage to Volk, it just maybe a little bit more. I don't know how I should put this. It's like a little bit more eye grabbing, a little bit more eye grabbing to the. Even though they may be landing the same, doing similar damage, just the appearance of that more power that he has.
Yeah,
maybe can give him a little bit of an edge.
It's a pretty one. And then you got Sean O'Malley's on there, Robbie Lawler's on there, Jim Miller versus Cowboy Cerrone's on there. It's a hell of a banger. Saturday night in the desert. If you guys are out here.
Definitely not going to be a boring one.
No, it'll be worth your money. Kind of like sending us a chat on the Autumn Windbags. We have a super thanks that you can do now. If you are so inclined, we'd really appreciate it. You can just click on the little heart down there and give us a super thanks. It all goes towards making the show better. But first off, question of the day. This question will be pinned in the comment section right at the top. We want to know what you think. Which NFL team has the worst fan base? Because the Raiders, Soto, get a lot of hate. A bunch of thugs, bunch of bastards, just a bunch of Roman hooligans.
Parolee motherfuckers, cholos.
Silver and black. Smoking their cigarettes, kicking their babies, tipping over cars, setting them on fire. We get a bad rap, but I don't feel it's that way. Which NFL team has the worst fan base? And this is coming from the Raiders because I did a quick hit on Steve Cofield's show here on ESPN 1100 in Las Vegas. And I was talking about how we did that video on how Khalil Mack had a slip of the tongue and kind of admitted that the Chargers have no fans.
Yeah, no real fans, yeah.
And we were that was mostly like it was half tongue in cheek, half trolling, but it was it kind of had a little epiphany. And I had some dude come at me on Twitter, like 25 straight tweets, just like berating me, clearly a Charger fan. And I'm like, you know what? I feel like Chargers have the worst fans because there's only like 7 of them. And so they feel like they have to be an asshole to make up for the rest of like a normal sized NFL fan base.
Yeah, they're just so annoying, dude. Chargers fans are so freaking annoying. Like we went to go watch Rory and I and a bunch of friends. You were there, I think. We went to watch the opening game it was a lot of years ago. It was Raiders and Chargers, and at a bar. And these Charger fans, like this chick was just like super annoying, always jumping in our pictures and like just trying to like just super annoying. She thought I stole her phone that night. I'm like, what are you talking about? Steal your phone? Why? Because I'm a Raider fan. I'm gonna steal your shit.
Joke's on her. You did steal the phone.
Joke's on her. I bought a lot of drinks with the fucking money I got for that goddamn phone. Look, outside of the AFC West, the Cowboys fans are fucking annoying as hell. The Patriots fans are fucking annoying as hell. But inside the AFC West, look, Chiefs fans are shitty, but they do more rooting for their team than anything else. And because they've been successful for the last few years, it's like you can't really shut them up because, oh, yeah, we're this, we're that, blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine.
The annoyingness to success ratio isn't out of whack.
Yeah, they're successful, so yeah, whatever, talk your shit. The Broncos fans are they're annoying, but they're also like pretty measured too. Like, all right, they're not like, we're gonna win the Super Bowl every single year and we're the best team ever. Like, no, they talk shit, but
like my mentions aren't like I would have thought for sure my mentions would just be loaded of people like talking about how Russell Wilson's like gonna win us the Super Bowl and like the Denver's gonna be back on top. It's like no, it's like It's like tepid enthusiasm. It's just like, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think we'll do pretty well. And you're like, okay, you got a 9-time Pro Bowler, and you're just gonna
like
just sit back. You're just sitting back, crossing your legs, and just kind of like rubbing your fingers on your chin. Like, I think we will find some success in the AFC. It's like, okay, that's not too annoying.
It's like the 30-something-year-old that's been divorced a couple of times. He's like, look, this next one, we'll get married and everything. We'll just see how it goes. They've had a couple of rough quarterbacks back to back. But I mean, by far, it's a Charger fans, dude. Because like they talk all kinds of shit. You haven't won shit. You had like Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer after Hall of Fame player on your team in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and you didn't win jack shit. You probably had like the best running back at the time. You had one of the best handful of quarterbacks at the time. You had one of the best pass rushers at the time, and you just didn't win anything. You got some playoff games, and you
go 14-2,
and you shit the bed in the division.
Don't win a playoff game,
divisional round,
and fire your coach. It's like, and that's what makes them so annoying. Is like they talk all this shit, like they got everything going, and I don't think there's a team in the NFL that more consistently has a ton of talent that
shits the bed the most, dude. And they went from Breeze to Rivers, and they still didn't win shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, dude, I would have killed to have any one of those guys during that time period. And they had 2 back-to-back with LaDainian Tomlinson and Sean Merriman. Yeah. It's like, dude, you have all this talent and you still didn't win shit. So shut the fuck up.
I think they're just pissed because they're homeless. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, no, we're sharing a stadium with the Rams. We're tenants. It's like, no, you're not. Like when I'm a tenant, like when I rent an apartment, it's my apartment. Like my landlord doesn't just like come in every other week and like make a sandwich in my kitchen, right? Like if I'm a tenant, it's not like the Rams get the like my landlord gets the apartment Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I get it Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and we alternate Sundays. It's like, no, you're not a tenant. The Chargers aren't a tenant in SoFi Stadium.
Nope,
they're more like the deadbeat uncle that sleeps on the couch.
Yeah, it's like the deadbeat uncle that comes over for Thanksgiving and doesn't leave for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like, Jim, you got to go, bro. It's time.
And they're not going to get more popular in LA. Like the Rams just won a Super Bowl.
They're still the 3rd most popular football team.
If they're lucky, they're the 3rd most popular football team in Los Angeles.
There's a lot of Cowboys fans out here too.
There's a lot of everything fans in LA. Except
you know what I fucking hate? I really fucking this bugs me. I know it shouldn't, but it really does. But like people that are like diehard like Steeler fans, and I'm like, oh yeah, like you got ties, you got family in Pittsburgh or something. Like, no man, I just really maybe because they were winning Super Bowls when you were like starting to like football. You fucking front running piece.
I saw this Iron Curtain on Amazon and I bought it, and I thought I'd root for the team that it goes with.
I like yellow towels. I have a fetish, yellow towel fetish.
So that's the question of the day. Which NFL team has the worst fan base? We laid in pretty hard on the Chargers. If you agree, please let us know. If you think
they are the fucking worst, they're the fucking worst.
They're pretty brutal. I mean, like they're like specific too, because it's not like San Diego is known for having bad sports fans, but you think of like Philly, New York, like traditionally like Boston, traditionally like rough like fan bases. So they're kind of measured. Compared to like the annoyingness is more so with Chargers.
New England's won. Fucking Philly won what 4 years ago? They won a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
You got fucking the Chiefs have won. The fucking Broncos have won. It's like that. Fucking Chargers. Shut the fuck up. You want to talk all like I hate it, man. They talk all this shit because we haven't won shit either. I'm not gonna fucking lie. But like, don't fucking look down on me for being a Raider fan when you ain't won shit. Like you don't even have any fucking Super Bowls. At least we got something. You don't got nothing.
So that's the question of the day. Which NFL team has the worst fan base? Let us know down in the comment section. Love to hear what you think.
Now you got me all fired up to start the show, man.
Yeah, it takes a lot of creative imagination getting you pissed off.
No, I've been a lot better lately, but this fucking Charger fans really pissed me off.
So let's see if we can get you happy again. Let's talk about Alex Leatherwood.
Oh,
your favorite player.
Oh, there goes my boner.
Alex Leatherwood, obviously our first round pick 2 seasons ago. Alabama, had him in at right tackle, was so terrible. Literally the worst starting right tackle in football. They moved him to guard. and he was still one of the worst right guards in football. Okay. Rookie year's done. Clean slate. Off-season time. Try to get better. Try to, brush off all dust yourself off from your rookie year, and let's see what you can do, right? And we're all hoping he does well. As Raider Nation, we would love it for him to improve and be amazing and be a starting right tackle and keep Derek Carr's jersey clean. But we're seeing this incredible swell of optimism that I'm hoping is true. I just don't know what's backing it. Paul Gutierrez of ESPN wrote this. The off-the-line 2021 first-round pick who was moved from right tackle to right guard after just 4 games last season spent a lot of time back at right tackle this offseason. He was drafted to be a tackle, and as Coach Josh McDaniels said, Leatherwood will be giving every opportunity to win the gig back. So getting that much time on the outside should do wonders for his confidence, as well as put him on track to reclaim his old job. Whether that's a positive development for the offensive line as a whole remains to be seen. Soto, I know you've got your Alex Leatherwood jersey underneath your T-shirt.
Mm-hmm. I wear it as a diaper.
For when he shits the bed? That's what they should get, an Alex Leatherwood diaper for when he shits the bed.
I just don't understand. I don't understand this blind optimism.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make sense. I use Jonathan Abram as an example. Okay. He was hurt 1 year, better defensive coordinator, better use of his skill set. And he did improve a bit in his run stopping ability.
Tackling machine.
He was still one of, if not the worst, pass defender in the league. So he got a little bit better at what he was okay at, but what he was bad at, he was still one of the worst in the league. When I hear people say, oh, Leatherwood's going to be a stud, Leatherwood's going to be this is what's going to be that, oh, he didn't get good coaching, and blah, blah, blah. It's complete and utter bullshit. It's all it is. It's not like he went to Slapdick State and, the women's volleyball coach was also the offensive line coach. He went to goddamn Alabama, okay? He went to Alabama where he beat out a bunch of fucking 4 and 5 star recruits to be the starting right tackle, okay? Yeah. And he played against future NFL players every single week. And then he comes on the Raiders, and he got quote unquote bad coaching. I don't know. The previous years, our offensive line was okay. He gets here, and he is like a fucking buffalo on fucking ice skates. He can't keep his footing. He's reaching. His technique is god awful. That's not anything that happened this year or that last year. He needs a lot of work. And like I said in my live show, which got taken down, we'll try to put it back up, but I think we should look for more of a progression from Alex Leatherwood, not that he's going to be a stud this next year coming up. He wasn't injured. He wasn't hurt, okay? He did, and then people are acting like, okay, he did so much work to change his body in the offseason. Like, wow, all this offseason work is going to do well for him. Like, okay, it's not like he sat at home doing jack shit in his college career. He worked in the offseason just like everyone else did. He wouldn't have been a fucking starter on the national championship team. It's like people are taking these things and I understand wanting to be optimistic about things, but what are you basing it off of? When have you seen a player literally be the worst at his position and then be a stud the next year? I just don't see it. And I don't think we are in the position to let him learn on the fly. We have a $100+ million quarterback back there. We traded first and second round picks to get receivers. We signed guys on defense. We signed guys on offense to win now, not to let some guy fucking get Derek Carr decapitated while he learns what the fuck he's doing.
In all fairness, I would pay good money to see a buffalo on ice skates.
You know
That's
what?
Like front row seat material. That should be a show here in Vegas, Buffalo on ice skates. Or you can just buy a ticket and watch Leatherwood play. So devil's advocate, historically, players make their biggest jumps between their rookie year and second year. Historically, painting with broad strokes, that rookie year is a big slap in the face of reality. You're going against pros. You're used to being especially at Alabama, you're used to being you're playing on the Yankees against you're playing everyone else, right?
Of college football, yeah.
I would expect a jump for Leatherwood. How big that jump is, we'll see. And it does seem like there is at least some confidence in him in the coaching staff. Now, and if I was trying to, if I'm Paul Gutierrez of ESPN, or if I'm Alex Leatherwood's manager or agent, and I'm trying to get some good press on him, those are some of the things I would say, as opposed to what we got out of him was, or what Gutierrez put. He's getting a lot of reps, so that's going to be good for his confidence. It's yeah, that's the best you can do. You're trying to hype a guy up, and it's just he doesn't have helmet or pads on, but he's in that position a lot. I'm not seeing it.
It just doesn't make sense, man.
So he's so I'm with you, right? I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit, but I'm with you. He's going to be a stud. He's going to be the man. God, I hope so. And if he makes
he's already here. He's already under contract. I'd love for it to happen.
That would be amazing. If he made that giant jump, that would be amazing. But the only evidence we have of it is that basically the coaching staff hasn't swept him to the side. That's it. He's in the mix, right?
Yeah, he's in the mix. Yeah.
He's in the mix without helmets or pads on. That's the biggest positive we can put together about Alex Leatherwood, is that he just hasn't been swept under the rug yet. And in fairness, he's got the physical tools where you're okay, we can mold this guy, I think there's reason for optimism in the sense that he has the physical tools, and and historically, guys in his position make a pretty big jump in year 2. But that's basically it. It's just generalities of optimism.
Yeah, I mean, good on him for getting himself in better shape, and that's awesome. I need to see it on the field, in between the lines, when there's play going on. I don't need to see him in a t-shirt. I don't need to see him against pads. I don't need to see him half speed. I don't need to see any of that shit. I need to see his ass when the fucking whistle blows and the ball is snapped. I need to see him perform better then. Then I'll fucking understand what's going on.
And the Raiders paid Brandon Parker starter money. They didn't make. They didn't. $3 million is that's starter money. You're not a backup at $3 million. You're not a above average. It's not good guy, money, but that's starter money.
And the thing is too, I understand what you're saying about the first and second year. Colton Miller made a big jump. Colton Miller was also injured his rookie season, so a lot of people like to skip over that. Leatherwood was not injured that first year. He just didn't play well. But if there's a position group in the NFL that translates the best from college to the NFL, it's offensive line. And you can, pick offensive linemen in the first round and plug them in like that. And if they're good, they're going to be good. And, I just want to temper some of the expectations to have a little bit more of a gradual slope on those expectations. I think right now, a lot of people are expecting Leatherwood to be literally the worst right tackle in the NFL to being above average. That's a huge jump, man. That's a huge jump. And I'm not saying he can't get there, but I don't necessarily think he's going to get there in 1 year.
There's no unfounded optimism that you won't shit on, which I love.
I need to see it, man.
Even founded optimism, you start to pull your pants down and you think about taking a dump on it. But unfounded optimism,
I'll just cut a wet fart.
Those drows are off, man. You've been eating taqueria for 3 days prepping for that moment.
That red sauce extra.
He's also going against Max Crosby and Chandler Jones, hopefully as often as possible, which should do wonders for him, right? It's either going to break him mentally or he's going to get stronger from it.
Look, man, here's my take on going against somebody who's good in practice. If you're not that good, it doesn't matter who you're going up against. You're just not that good.
Yeah.
If you have certain techniques that you need to work on and hone your craft, it's just, there was a lot of things to be very concerned about Alex Leatherwood's play last year, his technique. And it's to have that poor of a passing technique after playing, 3 years at one of the toughest coached and best college football programs that we've probably ever seen. Mm-hmm. That's very concerning.
So looking ahead, the Raiders defense has been awful for a very long time.
It hasn't been that bad.
Oh, really?
You said I'm always negative, man.
I know. Well, now you're just setting me up.
Okay. How
Raiders
bad
defense.
were they?
The Raiders defense. Here's a look at just since Derek Carr's tenure, since he's been in Oakland and Las Vegas, from 2014 to 2021. Their best defenses were in 2016 and 2017 when they were 20th in points per game allowed. Still below average. Still very much below average. But that was the best. 2014, they were last. In 2018, they were last. In 2020, they were third to last. 26th in 2021, 24th in 2019. Absolutely terrible defense since Derek Carr has been a Raider. So know what you're thinking. It's like, okay, well, that's just been 9 years, right? Like maybe they were better before that. Well,
let's take a look, shall we?
Let's see what ESPN had to say. So this is from 2020 when they were doing like the all-decade team, right? Like the best quarterback, the best free agent, the worst kicker, all that kind of stuff. This is what they said about then, the Oakland Raiders. They were last in defensive efficiency from 2010 to 2020, last decade. Last in points per game, 26.2, and 27th in yards per game. Paul Gutierrez wrote, continuity is key, and the Raiders had very little on defense in the 2010s. That's very true. Hey, six different defensive coordinators in the decade does not exactly signify stability, from John Marshall to Chuck Bresnahan to Jason Tarver. Remember Jason Tarver? To Ken Norton Jr. to John Pagano to Paul fucking Gunther. I added the fucking. And that's not counting a pair of heavy-handed, defensive-minded head coaches in Dennis Allen and Jack Del Rio. So he also goes on to continue, like, this is back, and they're like, oh, yeah, they've rebuilt their linebacker roster. We'll see what, Gunther can do. Obviously didn't do that well either. So the defense has been atrocious. Absolutely, absolutely awful the last 15 or so years. And we were talking about this when Paul Gunther took over last season. People were getting excited. Like, wow, Gunther, we're going to, the Legion of Boom defense is going to simplify everything, from Gunther, who was like,
you mean Bradley, right?
Bradley, excuse me. From Gunther to Bradley, Gunther, who was like a NASA computer for every single, play. Like you need, 10,000 plays per game, to Bradley, who's going to simplify everything, let guys keep everything in front of them, play aggressive, back to, getting all excited about it. And what did we say? We said, making a steamship do a U-turn doesn't happen on a dime. The Raiders defense has been so bad so long, it's embedded in the culture of the franchise. It's not turning around right away. So that's what my question is leading to this next season. What are some reasonable expectations for the defense? Patrick Graham coming in, diversify things. Chandler Jones is there. Perryman's coming back as a Pro Bowler. Max Crosby's bona fide superstar. What should we reasonably expect from the defense next season?
So Patrick Graham is known for his secondary, right? Okay. He does have some good pieces in the secondary. Good young pieces. His best two young pieces are going to be Hobbs and Merrick. Mm-hmm. But he also has other pieces. So what I'm looking for from this defense is going to be more sacks, more turnovers. Now, is that going to necessarily translate to lower points per game? It can because we're stopping, opponents' drives. It should. We don't know yet because, again, we get the ball back when we score, and then they have time to score too because we score right. We don't know that yet, but it could help our offense score more points. So we can look at the year. There's been a few years where teams who have won either gone deep in the playoffs or even gotten to the Super Bowl, where they don't have like the stingy, stout defense. They have an opportunistic, turnover-based defense, and it allows them to kind of keep them in games. I see that more so. Again, same thing with Leatherwood. We want that progression. It's not going to go from boom to boom right away, from low to high, but a progression in areas that I think can be sneaky game changers that maybe won't show up on the stat sheet like sacks and turnovers. Yeah, we were leading the league in turnovers, or we're in the top 5 in turnovers, but we still give up a lot of points. Well, late in games, we can either make stop drives late in games, or we can make create a lot easier offensive opportunities for ourselves by getting turnovers.
I think we'll have similar numbers to last season. Bad, but not historically terrible like we did under Paul Gunther. But I'm with you that I think it'll be different. Whereas under Gus Bradley, it was simply don't blow it. Don't blow it. Don't let them beat you deep. Don't miss tackles, right? We're not going to get a lot of turnovers. We're not going to get a lot of sacks. We're not going to get a lot of big splash plays. But we're going to let bad offenses beat themselves, and we're going to keep good offenses from crushing us. That was the game plan, right? And then we're going to let Derek Carr, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs win these games for us.
Mm-hmm.
Under Patrick Graham, I think the numbers will still be pretty close, but I'm with you in the sense that it's going to be a lot of fast and famine, where Trevon Merrick instead
feast and famine.
Feast and famine. What did I say? Fast and famine.
Fast and famine. I thought you said
even
fast
worse.
and furious.
Not eating and then not having food to eat.
Oh God, that sounds awful.
So as an example, like instead of Trevon Merrick just keeping everything in front of him and just like making the tackle, he's going to go for that interception, and sometimes he's going to miss, and that wide receiver is going to go catch that ball and score a touchdown. But other times he's going to get that pick, and we're going to be down by 5 with 3 minutes left, and he's going to get that interception and put us in a position to win. We're also going to be up by 5 in that situation, and he's going to go for an interception and maybe miss it, and they're going to score that touchdown. So I can see the numbers being similar, but the culture and identity of the defense being completely different.
Yeah, again, it's going to be about the progression of these players and of them kind of buying in and getting comfortable and finding their niche in the scheme, and also Graham slotting these guys in the positions that's going to make them the most successful. It's going to be that first year. It's not like people think that the first year something gets rolled out, it's automatically going to be bad. Not necessarily. And it's not necessarily because they didn't pick up the system properly. It's also the players and the coaches finding their footing and finding their niche. Okay, even though he's not a starter, he plays really well doing this type of technique. I can bring him in and play this when I call these type of plays. And being comfortable, you know what, this guy, even though he's not a big sack guy, he gets a lot of pressure when we run this kind of formation or this scheme. He's the guy that's going to be, even though he's not a starter, he's going to do well doing this type of thing. And sometimes the defensive coordinator hits on it right away, and sometimes it takes him a year to figure out which chess pieces to move during which situation. So I really do think that we're going to be more aggressive. I think we're going to get a lot more sacks and a lot more turnovers. That's what I expect.
It's weird because Patrick Graham, he's got this aggressive swagger about him, but he's a non-meathead, right? Where did he go to Yale?
He went to Yale, yeah.
Yale, right? Really smart fucking guy, right?
Yeah.
Graduated from Yale. The guy knows a book. You know what I mean? Like the guy knows his stuff. So he's not your typical like macho in your face defensive coordinator, right? Just the meathead dude. But he carries that swagger about him a little bit. So I feel like that's an identity that I feel like a Jonathan Abram, Denzel Perryman, Chandler Jones, like there's a lot of guys on this defense that I think will identify with someone like that. And I think those are the guys that can, like you said, find their niche in that system. Like that kind of like chest out badassness, but you know where you're going. And like that's part of where your confidence comes is I know something you don't, which is kind of how what Patrick Graham wants to instill in his players.
Yeah, he's going to instill that confidence for the players to go out there and take those, not necessarily take a risk, but to be just more aggressive because they have that confidence in the rest of their teammates to be able to pick them up.
Was there one game last season where like the defense just completely blew it for us? Kansas City blew us out.
Yeah,
that was the
Kansas
whole team.
City was really bad.
Kansas City completely blew us out.
Late in the game against Washington. Late in the game against the Chargers, almost blew it. We were fucking goddamn 3rd and 4th down. She fucking killed us. Let's see.
Multiple 4th and 20s.
We made a fucking what's his face look like a young Mike Vick. Fucking what's his name? Justin Fields.
Oh,
It's like, dude, what the fuck? He's moving the ball down the field on us. He didn't move the ball like fucking at all the week before. Even though they didn't score a lot of points, it's like he was still able to do a whole lot more than he did the week before and the week after.
it was a defense we couldn't trust to win the game for us, but they usually didn't lose it for us. Generally, usually didn't put us in a hole we can't get out of. I feel like that's gonna be different next season. I feel like it's gonna be a defense that's gonna win us some games. Like we'll blow it here and there, and someone's gonna come with a big play that we desperately needed on defense. But I think they're also gonna cost us a few games as well. Like there's gonna be a breakdown and young DBs, brand new system, little over aggressive. And it's like Derek Carr, right? Like when he was dink and dunking, he wasn't throwing picks. When he's throwing 20 yards down the field multiple times a game, throwing a ton of picks, right? Like they go hand in hand, right? It's very rare that you can be a super aggressive defense that gets, interceptions and sacks and fumble recovers and touchdowns and don't get beat as well. It's very hard to do that.
It is very hard to do that, but I do have confidence in Patrick Graham's scheme that he's going to be able to put something together that we can both be aggressive and not be reckless while doing it. There's a way you can do both. And I feel like those sacks and turnovers increase will really show dividends in the first quarter and in the fourth quarter. To start off games, maybe we go down there and kick a field goal or touchdown, and then we get the ball right back. And like in the first Broncos game last year, we started off fast, but before we knew it, it was 13-0.
Yeah.
So same thing, maybe a little bit more of that coming up this year, where we get off to some fast starts, or maybe we're down a little bit in the late in the game, we can get the ball back and give ourselves more opportunities.
Just if Hunter Renfrow plays safety, if we need to, we can always lean on that. Jonathan Abrams not covering.
Hunter Renfrow hits guys as a safety the way players hit him when he's returning punts.
Illegally hard.
Yes.
So, question for you.
Answer for you.
I'm Josh McDaniels.
Hi, Josh.
Hi, Juan. How you doing?
Doing well, sir.
So, I was sleeping in bed next to my beautiful wife in my beautiful mansion in beautiful Las Vegas, and I woke up in a cold sweat, had a nightmare. I just 3 a.m, shut up out of bed, and my wife turned to me and rubbed my back and said, "Joshy Poo, honey bun,
Joshua,
did you have the same nightmare again?" And I'm like, oh, grab my inhaler, like, yeah, I had that nightmare again. She's like, "Don't worry, babe, you'll figure it out. You'll figure out a way to stop it." What do you think that nightmare was about?
Premature ejaculation.
Maybe. I feel like they probably worked that out. They've been together long enough. So I think it's not the offensive line, not what are they going to do at right tackle, not their young DBs, not the incredibly hard schedule, not the insane travel schedule. I think what he wakes up in cold sweats about is this. Most penalties in the Super Bowl era by franchise. Top 5, starting with 5. Lions, 5,598 penalties. Then Bills, 5,606 penalties, only 8 more. Dallas Cowboys, 5,659 penalties, only 53 more. Tennessee Titans, second most, 5,681 penalties. Just, 22 more. So between the 5th most penalties and 2nd most penalties all time in the Super Bowl era, there's only a difference of 83 penalties. So everyone's very clumped together, right? Like, there's not a drastic difference. Until you get to number 1, the Raiders. 6,415 total penalties in the Super Bowl era. Almost 800 more than number 2.
No, 730 something, 735. I got 734.
Look at the math skills on Juan. Someone paid attention. And that's compared to 2 through 2nd most through 5th most divided by 83. Like, there's only 83 penalties. So there really isn't that big of a gap between NFL franchises and the amount of penalties they get, with the exception of one team, the Raiders. This is Josh McDaniels' biggest hill to climb. This is Josh McDaniels' Rubik's Cube to fix this team. Because it is very and I hate using it, Patriot way to blow games with unforced errors, which a lot of penalties are. This is the number one thing Josh McDaniels has to fix, and this is the number one thing I think makes him wake up in cold sweats every night.
So I was watching that Browns 30 for 30 when they talked about Belichick being there the last, he was like the last coach of the Cleveland Browns, right?
Yes. Then they disappeared. Right?
And they just disappeared and they came back. Okay. So he was in a room with it seemed like ages ago. Like I'm watching the video and I'm like, man, that's Nick Saban. And he looks older then than he does now. Yeah. With those crazy glasses and all that shit. Anyway, they were talking about penalties and players and how you would take a player who's maybe not as gifted, playing the game, but can be counted on better to not make as many penalties because he doesn't affect the entire play. If you cause a penalty, you get called for a penalty, you fuck up the entire play. So if you're not as good doing your job specifically, okay, that's a part of the play. Penalties ruin the entire play. So I'm of the opinion as well. If, let's say, for example, you have player A who's a superior athlete, way better at the position, but does a lot of penalties, and you have someone else who's more of a steady Eddie and doesn't get called, I'll take the steady Eddie because you know what to get from that guy, and you know that maybe the highs are going to be as high, but the lows aren't going to be as low either. And with so many positions on the field, you need those steady Eddies.
I also feel like part of it is as if Raider fans need more fuel on the fire that the league hates us. Like you have 2 through 5 that all have basically the same number of penalties. And then you have the Raiders with almost 800 more during that time span. Like is that really just they've been that undisciplined since Super Bowl I? Have they really just been like that many?
I mean, the first starts 20 years or so, probably.
Well, yeah, that's probably. I wonder what that number was 20 years ago when it was just like the brutal like 70s and 80s Raiders teams,
just breaking fools' necks and shit. Oh
god, where it was still like semi-legal to tackle at the neck, just like a choke slam was a gray area back then,
God damn, dude! I saw. I know it's not Raiders, but I saw a video of Deacon Jones, and he's like, "Oh, I head slapped that fool. He done. Yeah. And you see this guy in the back behind, like just bobbleheading. That was like a move for him. Yeah. I line up against the best offensive tackle, and within the first couple plays, I just head slap him, and I give him a concussion, and that way he's out of the game. I'm like, Are you serious?
They use concussions the way boxers use jabs. It's just like setting up the rest of the game.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So that's the number one thing I feel like, and that feels very Josh McDaniels like is we don't shoot ourselves in the foot. We're going to be disciplined. We're not going to have these terrible penalties. I think, and that's his biggest challenge. Not the O-line, not the young DBs, not giant expectations. I think that's going to be that's also going to be the best gauge I feel for Josh McDaniels' influence on this team. If they can keep the penalties down, that's something that no Raider team has been able to boast in ever.
Yeah, it's going to be about a couple of things. When you're a good teacher, when you're a good instructor, right? When you're a good coach, a good leader, everyone is very clear on what's expected of you. There's no gray area here, okay? You know what's expected of you when you walk in the building. You know what's expected of you at your position, as a teammate, as a player, as a leader. You know what's expected of you. Then those top echelon leaders, teachers, coaches, they inspect what they expect. So they're going to make sure they hold everyone accountable to those expectations, including themselves and the coaching staff. And that attention to detail is going to make the difference because the penalties aren't made in the game. The penalties are made in the practice field. When you don't cut that shit out in practice, they're going to play like that. So that's where his opportunity lies is during practice and the expectations he sets and how he inspects those expectations.
So we don't know what the 53-man roster is going to be, but we have a decent idea of who the starters are. Mostly, we're still not exactly sure at right tackle. We're not exactly sure what they're going to do at safety. Essentially, the whole O-line minus Colton Miller is semi up in the air. But we know who our starting wide receivers are. We know who's going to start at running back, obviously quarterback, defensive line, more or less set, linebacking core, more or less set. And there'll be some additions, and every single year, every single season, there's a surprise cut. But we know enough, I think, to start kind of grading the roster, and that's what ESPN did. ESPN ranked the roster, not the team, not win-loss, not the coach, not predicting how they're going to end, just the roster, right? Just the chess pieces on the board. Where do you think the Raiders landed?
Well, I can see it because I have the rundown in front of me.
So you could have cheated, but you're a strong man.
I am.
21st.
Yeah.
Below average. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's the entire roster. I think that we're pretty top heavy even at the positions that we're steady and we're set at. There's still a very top heavy. There's not a lot of depth. I think the depth is what's going to be the issue here. Start at quarterback. We're set at quarterback. We're good, but the depth isn't all that great. Wide receiver, we got a couple of good receivers, and then what? Tight end, got a couple of good tight ends. Offensive line,
tight end, we got a lot of depth.
Yeah,
I like that, but that's it.
Even
running back, a lot of depth.
Defensively, probably the most depth we have are probably going to be linebacker. We got a lot of good linebackers. People are sleeping on our linebackers. You got Kaiser, you got Brown, Perryman, Diablo, and he's probably only two are going to play at a time. Defensive line is kind of an up in the air type of thing. We're top heavy. We got great defensive ends, but the depth, we have good. We have players behind them, but Cleveland Farrell, Kuntz, you got Fackrell. This Van Valkenburg kid from Iowa, man, I think he's a sleeper. He's good. Again, in the secondary, who are our studs? I mean, we got some names who hopefully they improve into the next year, and Hobbs and Merrick, and we got Averett, and we got Mullen coming back, and we got some guys. We got Rock Yassin coming in, who's good in man-to-man. So, again, we got some pieces, but it's I think that they're rated. If you're being objective, okay, I know a lot of times we're not really that good at being objective, but if we're being objective, there are a lot of question marks and a lot of prove it to me on the field guys that can really help push up this roster into the mid to high teens if those guys come to play and perform. But for right now, with all the question marks, I can see 2021 being about right.
So they pointed the writer at ESPN pointed to the explosive offense, hopefully explosive passing game, right? Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Derek Carr pointed that as the biggest strength. I think it's kind of a no-brainer. Biggest weakness, he said, the counter argument to the explosive passing game is that the Raiders didn't do much to improve Carr's pass protection this offseason. The right side of Las Vegas's offensive line allowed more pressures than any other right guard, right tackle duo in the NFL in 2021, 124 pressures. And there's a chance that the Raiders run things back with Alex Leatherwood and Brandon Parker in those spots. And he also mentioned the big X factor being the DBs, which I think is pretty accurate. So I'm with this ranking. Pure personnel-wise, 21st makes some sense to me. And that shouldn't be a knock. That should be a source of pride. The fact that the Raiders are better than the sum of their parts. Opposite of the Chargers, right? The Chargers are just superstars and talent everywhere.
They shit the bed.
Can't crack the postseason to save their lives, right? The Raiders, last season, during that 4-game win streak to go to the playoffs, were the less talented team in probably all 4 of those games.
Oh, yeah.
But because of the locker room that we're always talking about, the way they come together, the leadership on the team, clutch gene coaching, Carr's leadership, whatever you want to put it on, whatever you think is the reason, they were able to overcome some of their personnel deficiencies and go to the playoffs and be a 10-win team. So I'm down to look at our roster and say, like, okay, top to bottom, below average, especially with our O-line being so unproven, our DBs being so unproven. In our, our offensive passing game, that's only, 1/5 of the roster, right? That's not the entire team. So I'm not looking at this as ranked 21 and below average as negative. I'm looking at it as, yeah, that's probably pretty accurate. And basically, this team last season went 10-7, went to the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. Look, the thing is, we have the potential to have some head turning players on our team.
Yeah.
The thing is some of those guys are in positions where they're just not known right now. Like Malcolm Kuntz.
Mm-hmm.
No one knows who the hell that is. Fackrell, he was like a pass rush specialist for the Chargers. He can do some things. If guys like Diablo and Merrick and Hobbs take that next step, and they're given more responsibility and they end up shining, they could be 3 really strong players. You got a Pro Bowler and Perryman there. So it's like the issue now is the depth that we have isn't known. They're not known commodities yet.
Yeah.
So not to say that at the end of the year they're going to have the 21st best roster, but for right now, because of the unknown, it seems about right.
A lot of youth, a lot of unproven guys. And in all fairness, the O-line was proven to be bad last season. So I don't think it's unfair to say, like, yeah, this O-line was crap last season. Like, why should we think it's going to be better? Other than they're all one season better, right? Because they're all young. So I think, anyway. But the good thing is we're not 21st across the board. We're, 2 and 3 in pass catchers and then 30th in O-line, right? We're, top 5 in running backs, bottom 5 on paper in DBs. And so when you know what your weaknesses are, you can scheme around it, right? The Cincinnati Bengals went to the Super Bowl last season with a trash O-line.
Worse than ours.
Worse than ours. You can scheme around holes that are obvious. I think that's what Mick Ziegler did this season, is like, you guys didn't touch your O-line. They're like, no, we're just going to make our pass catchers the best in football and scheme around it. We're going to lean on our strengths. We're going to have our weaknesses lean on our strengths. And I think that's the game plan, and the smart coach can scheme around your obvious. And again, we're not excusing the O-line for being bad. They need to get better. We need to, sign more players, coach the guys we got up, etc. But with the studs that we have in, strategic places, we can scheme around some of these holes.
I mean, we used the first pick that we had in the draft on the offensive line. We used another pick that we had on the offensive line. We signed a couple of guys off free agency. We signed a bunch of undrafted free agents from the offensive line. We're building a roster of guys that aren't necessarily going to help us this year, but it's going to build us a foundation moving forward. Because some of these guys can end up being starters, a couple of years down the line, and that costs us a lot of money. So when those opportunities, let's say next year, an opportunity rises up where, an offensive tackle falls into our lap, and he's going to be an upgrade to anything that we've had on the roster, of course you're going to take that. And that's how, you get that depth and you develop that depth, but, you given draft picks for a reason, to get good players and make your team better. And if you find a guy in the offensive line, it takes a mix of both. You can't always draft a position to make it strong, or always free agent a position. You have to do both. You have to draft and develop and sign guys to make a position group strong.
Football is the ultimate team sport, and that's the beauty of football. Is maybe you don't have the most skilled people at every position, you could still win it all.
Strategy, man.
And you can have the most skilled everything at every position.
And strategy.
Chargers.
Yeah, man. Like, look, the freaking Bengals made it to the Super Bowl. They were one score away from winning the Super Bowl with fucking 4 bomb-ass weapons on offense and a shit O-line and defense. That's what they got there, because they were able to put pressure on the opposing team, because they knew that the opposing team had to score more, and maybe it caused them to make a few mistakes. The Bengals team wasn't, a great defensive team, but they got turnovers and they were able to get sacks. And it's very similar to what I see happening to our team next year.
Ready to do some What Up Windbags?
You know I am, baby.
Oh, that's what I like to see. So this is from the video of Darren Waller when we said John Gruden kind of squandered his skills. Rick Ross chimed in. Squandered? He made him a Pro Bowl caliber player. LOL. Very true.
Was he really LOL?
I would assume he's laughing. He wouldn't lie. Who would write LOL and wasn't actually laughing out loud? A liar.
Rick Ross, the boss, doesn't lie.
A liar. That's who. So this is what we mean. And I went back and watched it, and we didn't. And I stand by everything we said. But here's an important point to make. Being a Pro Bowler is obviously awesome. Darren Waller should be a Pro Bowler on all 32 NFL teams, no matter who the head coach is, no matter, well, I guess quarterback is going to, if you're absolutely trash at quarterback, you're not going to get the ball. But he should be a Pro Bowler on every single team in the NFL. He's that talented. 6'6", runs like a gazelle, good hands, super smart player.
Dreamy eyes.
Oh, my God. It's like milk chocolate skin.
Oh, God.
Can't deny him. Pro Bowl everywhere. So just because he made it the Pro Bowl with the Raiders, it's like, all right, well, he's a success. He should have more than 3 touchdowns.
That's what I was about to say. There's a difference between being a Pro Bowl player and being an impact player on your team. Grabbing 3 touchdowns, that's the catches and the yards are great, but you don't win games with yards and catches. You win games with points. How do you affect the bottom line? And I don't feel like it was Darren Waller's fault. He wasn't dropping a bunch of touchdown passes. He wasn't not trying in the red zone. It was schematically he was not being given the opportunity to be more of an impact player, to make more of an impact on the game in the red zone.
He had 3 touchdowns in 2019, 2 touchdowns in 2021. That is underutilizing Darren fucking Waller.
Bro, hang on a second. Okay, that's 5, right? Hold up. I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna check something out real quick.
That's what we mean by underutilizing, right? Like, yeah, he's getting a lot of yards. Yeah, he became a Pro Bowler. Yeah, he's one of the best players in football. Like, that should be a given. Like, I could teach Mike Tyson how to box, and he would knock a lot of guys out in professional boxing, right? Customato made him a world champion, but he's just such a gifted athlete. Like Soto could teach him how to box, and he'd get some knockouts and he'd win some fights.
Hey,
and that's what we're saying is, like, when you have let's say you're growing an avocado tree, right? We live in Southern California. I got an avocado tree growing in my house.
So good.
You're like, okay, I got a couple avocados. Great. It's like, well, you want to make sure they have the best soil, watered perfectly, got the right sunlight, pruned. They get those little bugs on them that eat the leaves. You want to clean all those off, right? It's like you want to maximize what you have. Darren Waller wasn't maximized. It's just like, all right, I'm John Gruden. I want you to do what I have tight ends do. Go do it. And not, this guy's 6'6" and uncoverable. Why isn't he catching back shoulder fades every single time we're in the red zone?
Okay, so I found the stat I was looking for. So last year, the 2 primary tight ends for Josh McDaniels were Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. Okay, Hunter Henry last year had 9 touchdown catches. 9.
Mm-hmm.
That's maximizing talent because I don't think anyone's
Mac
going to
Jones rookie.
Exactly, with Mac fucking Jones. Okay. That's one guy. Jonnu Smith had 1. If Josh McDaniels wants
That's
to
half
get
as
you
many
the
as Darren Waller
fucking
had
ball, if Josh McDaniels wants to get you the fucking ball in the end zone and he knows you're the guy to get the ball to in the end zone, he's going to find a way to get you the ball in the end zone. I don't think anyone here is going to be crazy enough to say that Hunter Henry is in the league of Darren Waller. But you put him in the right position and you throw them the ball and they're going to make good things happen for you. That's why New England was like one of the top scoring teams in the league, even though they didn't have that many great offensive players. It's because the system, it's the scheme, the coaching. And I'm telling you right now, man, there's so much more meat on the bone when it comes to Darren Waller and its production.
ZB says McDaniels is bringing multiple successful people too from the Patriots. I think the Raiders will be successful under this regime, even if, Al forbid, they were to finish 9-8 or worse this season. And I think ZB was referring to how, we keep talking about Josh McDaniels, and again, you're super, super optimistic. Rory is super pessimistic. I'm in the middle somewhere, cautiously optimistic, and I keep saying, like, well, his history, like the actual history of him as a head coach, is terrible. But it does bring up a good point that he's bringing a lot of successful people with him. Now, I'm with you in that there are a lot of successful people that he's bringing with him, but they've been successful in short spurts. Like Patrick Graham's been a defensive coordinator all of one season. Giants was the first time, right?
I think it's 2 seasons.
2 seasons? At most 2 seasons, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of like the bulk of them, right? Like the new offensive coordinator, first time being an offensive coordinator. Of course, he's going to be under Josh McDaniels. Like a lot of these guys in like important positions have flashed that they've been great, but they haven't given us sustained greatness, which kind of just continues to add to my like giant question marks. Like we've seen flashes of awesome. We haven't seen sustained awesome from anybody. So that's another thing in a positive direction to make you think that this regime is going to do well. But it's still just the longer this offseason goes and the more I look at this team and coaching staff and front office and GMs and all this stuff, the bigger the question marks get. I just have more questions and less answers.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I'm basing it off of. And it's, again, if we want to tie everything back to our first segment with Alex Leatherwood, what have you seen and what have you experienced that's going to help you kind of have this optimism? And I have personal experience. My first time being given, a team to work under me, I made a lot of mistakes. Now, my team still performed because, the instruction I was giving them was sound, but the way I handled the people wasn't the best. And I got a lot better at that in subsequent opportunities. And
stopped banging the secretary, started banging the janitor. They can keep things under wraps better. You got that.
Janitor had a sweet ass. He worked out.
Yeah.
So the main thing I'm trying to say here is, if you learn from mistakes, being a good, if you have good instruction, if you're good at what you do, being a good leader is all about just having respect for the other person and knowing how to transfer that information. That's where I think Gruden fell flat a lot. Is he was a good coach. He did have a lot of good information to give, but a lot of times he didn't have that respect to where his ego got in the way a lot of times, and that kind of found its way onto the field. Josh McDaniels had an ego too. He traded away his starting quarterback before he even started. He drafted a quarterback that nobody would draft in the first round. He did it anyway. To his credit, he was able to figure out a offensive scheme that helped him win games and go to the playoffs and win a playoff game, for God's fucking sakes. But the thing that we have to take a look at here is the people that he's bringing in with him, they have a similar mindset and they think the same way. And they're also organized in the same manner. So they're able to transfer that information, and they're used to the language, right?
Yeah.
So I see that being all positive things.
Last one, we were talking last show about like the fall off from 2016 to 2017 and how it was like kind of shocking to everybody. We're like, damn it, what the hell happened? Alex Fitzgerald Jr. Del Rio getting rid of Musgrave and keeping Norton as defensive coordinator in 2017 doomed that team. All the other problems that year flowed from these moves. The Raiders are in good shape next year with cap space. They have set things up well to adjust each year. Yes, they have to have a very good rushing team for that Patriot offense to shine, and I think it will. I think they sign Ndamukong Suh closer to training camp. You went a lot of different directions on that one, Soto. What do you
There's
like?
a lot of shit on there.
Yeah.
So look, I understand that changing offensive philosophies can make a big difference. I get that. There was just such a huge nosedive from one year to the next with very similar personnel. there was something else going on there. But as far as being a good rushing team, I said it in the show, when you're a good leader, you know what to expect, and it's not just, this is why I shit on this comment that I hear a lot. Well, Derek Carr is the best quarterback we've had in 20 years. Well, who fucking cares? We've had awful quarterbacks. That bar is set low. We need to have an expectation. I'm not saying he's not there, but we need to have an expectation of what we're looking for. And if not on our roster, we need to go find it. So I am of the opinion that if our offensive line, if a position in our offensive line is not up to snuff, we're not just going to roll with the best that we have. We're going to go out and look to upgrade to be able to get to that minimum threshold that we're looking for. Because of that, I think our rushing offense is going to work out a lot better. As far as Sue standing close to the training camp, that's what I've been saying is he's going to play it out and see if someone gets hurt or, what kind of
you still said there's over 50% chance we sign him.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
And late cuts to open up some space, and Sue's still out there. This guy's going to really turn around our defense. We'll see.
All right, well, that's it for us. Enjoy UFC 276 this weekend. I hope you guys check it out. You'll have a good time, I promise, especially since it's not football season. Thank God for combat sports. Otherwise, you'd be just stuck with fucking baseball all summer long.
Dude, I can't watch baseball on TV anymore. I just can't do it, man. I can go to a live game and watch and have a couple of beers and chill. That's fine. I mean, Dodger Stadium. I can't go to Angel Stadium. But dude, I mean, fuck, man, I can't watch. It's too goddamn slow, man. I can't do it.
Did you hear of all the drama going on with the Angels and their stadium because of all the drama politically in Anaheim?
No, what the fuck?
This is the only baseball talk you'll ever get on the Autumn Windbags. But the mayor of Anaheim resigned, as did several city council members in Irvine, city council members in Long Beach. There was a political advisor, basically this girl did all the dirty work and did the bribes for politicians.
Uh-oh.
She got busted and rolled on these guys to the FBI.
Damn.
So the entire operation to keep Anaheim or keep the Angels in Anaheim and get them a new stadium, that all blew up because it was all based on these bribes and
Oh, I read something about that, how they might move to Long Beach.
Yeah. So now it's kind of every single city in Southern California is sticking their hand out to say they maybe can do it. But Long Beach is now, it's
they have the space, man. They can build the stadium.
They got the plan. It's a city the size of Atlanta. But yeah, so that's your baseball talk.
I would never root for the fucking Angels and Long Beach Angels.
Even if they're in Long Beach.
Dodgers all the way, babe. Dodgers are nothing. I don't care where I don't care. I don't care where the Raiders went. I'm still a fucking Raider fan.
Angels got to stay in Orange County, LA County.
Yeah, bullshit ass. No, don't get that.
All right, that's it for us. Until next time, knock on wood if you're with me. Congratulations for making it all the way to the end of our video. If you want Darren Waller to catch 20 touchdown passes next season and for Max Crosby to have 30 sacks, go ahead and subscribe and click the next video.